Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Maya and this is Fly Like Me PhD. As you all know, we're talking about travel on this channel, and today is no different. I have some wonderful guests I'm going to introduce to you today. I want you all to know that I pay attention to what you do on my YouTube channel, and I noticed that after I posted my Anti-Blackness Abroad video, it literally became my third most popular video of all my videos. So I can tell that you all are really interested in this conversation. So I decided to follow it up with a live. And I have brought in some wonderful and incredible Black women to help me have this conversation so that if y'all think it was just a Maya problem, you can recognize that it actually is a global issue. And that even though we are Black women from different places, from different backgrounds, we could still have similar experiences. So first, I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone one by one, and then we will get the conversation started. First, we have Ulonda, who loves to locate her cozy. She has been a pet sitter before and talks about her experience within Spain. So Ulonda, I'm going to bring you in. Please tell us a little bit more about your channel. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to comment regarding Ulonda's channel. And the information is also in the description box.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Could you tell us a little bit more about your channel?
Well, Locating Cozy is what I named it because I had to find my own joy and positivity in the world. And it started with me deciding to quit that horrible, mean job and leave on my own terms. And then I left the apartment that I was paying $1,700 a month and started pet sitting full time. And I wanted to share these from the very beginning of me making all these drastic changes. I wanted to share the experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so now I am here in Spain. I've lived here for 1 year in Zaragoza, Spain, through many blessings. And I'm embracing it and sharing the experiences, the honest to goodness experiences from still pet sitting and just as a woman of 55, about to be 56 years old, doing things on our own terms.
Yolanda, that's fantastic. And I am so glad that you are here for this conversation so that when we talk about Europe, this can be one place where we kind of focus on what's going on there. So now I'm going to introduce our next speaker, which is Vonnie. She has very unique content. If it is specifically for Black women ready to stop surviving and start living, talking about joy and possibility. Vonnie, I selected for this live, you all, because Vonnie is very honest about how people feel about our skin tone, about our hair texture, and how we have been treated because of that. So you definitely want to check out her content. Her information is also in the description box. So please do not forget to subscribe, to like, and to comment. Vonnie, please come on in and tell us a little bit more about your channel.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dr. Maya. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, my channel is for Black women who are done surviving and want to thrive. I talk about building a life of joy on my own terms, which means that I share the good, the bad, the ugly, all the real moments of how to live a joyful life that is outside of capitalism and all the shoulds that people tell you you need to do in order to be happy.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Vonnie. So just so that you all are aware, you know Marissa Price Heels. I'm always going to mention a Marissa Price Heels. She is our moderator today in the chat. So Marissa will send you all our links as we talk and also be the one to really facilitate discussion that you all are having in the chat. So the final person I have to introduce to you all today is Helese. Helese is a fantastic human being who's just very much a visionary, has gotten us together in terms of like our YouTube group so that we could have conversation. Very good at scheduling and making polls if you all need help with that. And Helese's channel really focuses on life, love, work, and ADHD. Helese is going to be the facilitator for our discussion. So I'm going to turn turn it over to her, and she will actually be the one to ask the questions. And just so that you all know, at the end of our discussion, like an hour in, then we'll take questions from our chat. So without more talking, let me bring in Helese. Helese, please introduce yourself, and then after that, you can begin the discussion.
Hey everyone. It's a beautiful day here in Mexico City, which is where I am. Yes. Let's get a shimmy for that. So I'm really happy to be here hosting this discussion because it's something that really important that Dr. Maya brought to the table for us to get together and discuss live. So of course we have the perfect people here. Everybody in the chat, start firing away your questions and your comments because we want to get this discussion really live and heated and dynamic in the hour and a half that we have. So my name is Helese. My channel is at Love Stars World. Basically, I talk about ADHD. I talk about living. I'm still trying to crack the code in the mystery of ADHD because, you know, we pathologize everything, but maybe there's absolutely nothing wrong with having ADHD and having your brain race with different thoughts and, you know, being super dynamic and empathetic, even though it poses challenges in the modern day world and the things that we have to do to survive. So that's what I discuss on my channel. But let's get into the discussion. So we're talking about anti-Blackness abroad. And one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was basically, you know, the first thing that people are going to respond to about you is how you look. And when you're in these places where Black people are not the norm, or even when you just look different from other people, you may get some different reactions. So we want to focus on some isms. Colorism and featureism is basically, you know, the discrimination of different skin tones and hair textures and features that can be associated with Blackness. And so since we're all Black up in here, I just wanted to go around and discuss a little bit about how have people reacted to you when they first see you, when you're in these Latin American and European countries. I know some of you have traveled to Asia. How have people responded to you, and what kind of situations did you find yourself in, or conversations did you find yourself in when you were in these places? So I'm going to start with Vonnie, and then you can kick it to whoever you want after that.
Okay, sounds good. So this is a really interesting question. So I haven't traveled to Asia. Most of my travels have been like in the Caribbean, Latin America, and Europe. Honestly, I find that people just stare at me. I think also a lot of it is that I'm very tall. I'm 5'10". So I think people, especially in Latin American countries, like you just don't see tall women. And I think for me in Latin America, it's interesting because I speak Spanish and I speak it pretty well. So people just think that I'm Colombian or Panamanian. Like people don't guess that I'm from America. And I hear this a lot. Actually, I just met someone yesterday and they asked me, where are you actually from? And I was like, oh, I'm Ghanaian. And it was like, oh yeah, because like your mannerisms don't scream American. So people tell me this all the time. And I think it's a compliment. People don't say it in a negative way, but I also get the same thing in Europe. Like, you know, I'm West African and I look like my people, right? I look West African, but I think there's always something about me that gives off a vibe like, okay, she looks African, but she's from like a Western country, if that makes sense. But I just find like a lot of times people just stare. And I think a lot of it has to do with my height. Okay. Oh, you said I gotta kick it off. Oh, Ulonda, if you want to chime in there.
Yes. So the places that I have visited so far, for the longest amount of time, was I spent 2 months in Mexico, and I did like a week or so in Morocco and Rabat, Morocco, and that was for a pet sit. And then, of course, now I've been here in Spain for the longest time, and I've visited several times before. There seemed to be, when I first visited in 2018, there seemed to be, for lack of a better word, some confusion in some of the, I'll say probably, well, a lot of the non-Black locals here. There just seemed to be like, I don't get it. I know that you're not a local. I know that you're not us, but it's almost like they were like looking like, I can't recognize what African you are. And then I speak and they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, and that was like maybe the first time. It was a lot more stairs. Now I will go back and say this to be clear. My youngest daughter has lived here since 2016. So when she came, it was she had even more stairs. So over the years, the look of confusion has softened some, but definitely I've had more of a look like once I speak, then it's like, oh, like, because I'm from Texas, and for some reason they wanted me to like depict some, like howdy. I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm not doing that. No.
Doctor, thank you for that. As another tall girl, Vaughn, I totally relate to you. Just being like twice the size of like a lot of people. I think I walked past a woman. I feel like I'm like 4 feet taller than her. I just feel huge in a way, but at the same time, being here makes me feel kind of soft and delicate. So I don't feel like, this massive person, but I fully understand. And Ulonda, I understand as well. Dr. Maya, you have a particular story about this that you shared on your channel, just in case people haven't seen your channel, which they should go run and subscribe to all of ours. But I'm going to let you tell it because it was pretty profound about what you experienced in the Dominican Republic.
Thank you for that, Helese, and thank you all for everything that you said. We haven't even got into like what we said to people or people like saying things that are we're just here with like how we looked and the difference between what people thought when they saw us and when we actually spoke. So yes, the DR is a complicated situation. I am like known now for like calling the DR out for what it has done. That has like become my brand. And I'm like, no. There are so many countries that have done things. It was just that I lived in the DR for 6 months. And I think the longer that you live somewhere, the more you can recognize anti-Blackness. So just really quick, in the DR, my hair was a problem, skin tone was a problem, constantly compared to white people, constantly asked to straighten my hair all of the time, and it just looked like this. And it was very hurtful. I would like cry every single day because it was just always a problem. It was so awful. It was probably the worst experience I've had in terms of colorism and texturism. And so that is why I'm like giving voice to the person that was silent and just took it at that time. And I am not going to do that anymore. I also wanted to piggyback off of what Vaughn said about people thinking that you're from another place. So when I was in Argentina, they will always be like, are you Brazilian? And I was in Argentina when I was only 16 years old. And so I'm like, what? The whole time I've been in the US, no one's ever asked me, was I from another country? So I was in that boy like, what? Like you could be from another country. Like that was my first experience of you could be from another country. I had no idea. I just thought, they would see me and immediately think that I was American. And then I just wanted to mention about my experience in China and how gawked at, stared at, taking pictures, grabbing my braids without permission. I mean, it just really depends on where you are. If people are not interacting with Black people a lot, I think it's very shocking and a very jarring experience. And then you become known as like the person to define Blackness to them, which I think is a lot of pressure. And finally, I want to talk about in Colombia, I had an interaction with this guy in the store. I told him I was from the US and he was like, no, where are you really from? And I'm like, I'm really from the US. And he was like, no, like your ancestors, where did they come from? And I'm like, dude, where did your ancestors come from? Like, what are you saying to me? It's not my fault that I didn't know where my ancestors came from, right? Like I had nothing to do with that. All I know was specifically where I was born and where my family is from in the US. So I think there's this obsession globally of like wanting to place people, and similar to what you said, Yolanda, and then stereotype them. It's like, okay, so you from that place, so do this thing. And it's like, we're not a toy. right? We are
Yeah.
people. We have our
They're
own.
like, dance for me. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
dance for me. Say
prove
this.
it.
Why don't you speak
Yeah.
like this? Stuff like that. So that is all I have for right now, Helese. But I'm sure with more questions, I got more to say.
Yeah, and I 100% understand what you're saying about you want to place someone. I think it's a bias that we all have, this internal bias of just the brain wants to categorize so that we know how to react. It's all about being safe and comfortable. But even when some of these things are well-meaning, like, oh, I love your hair, and they want to touch it because it's like, oh my God, your hair is like, I've never seen this texture. It's just not familiar to me. It can come off as the fetishization. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a tongue twister word, or it can just come off as you're othering me. You are making me other than human right now. You're making me other than, like, I'm just like you. So whatever you not trying to feel, I'm not trying to feel. So yeah, it's crazy, looking at different body parts, as you're saying, Julanda, like looking at your butt and thighs and just whatever. For me, I can understand too how it's not necessarily, it doesn't always feel like a bad thing when, I get into a taxi and they may think that I speak a little bit of Spanish, and they may think I'm Colombian, or they may think I'm Jamaican or African. Then when I just go into my American accent, it's like, oh, you're American. Don't try to raise the price on me now. You know what I mean? Just, let's just keep it kosher, because I feel like, it's all about wanting to be respected when you go to these places. And yeah, so great topic. Let's move on. We've already talked a little bit about this, but I think we can go a little bit deeper, because a lot of these places that we go to, that we live, that we want to expect to and everything, have built-in colorism already within the people that are there. But then we come with our Black selves and we add in another shade to this situation. So can you talk about some of your experiences with colorism, or just what you've seen? Because when we talk about anti-Blackness abroad, it's not necessarily about what we've experienced. It can already be like, it's abroad from where we are, which is the States, from where we originate. Not okay, Vonnie, Ghana, right? But from where we've lived maybe most of our lives, abroad, like things that are already happening within the dynamics of that country. You can talk about some of those things too, on a wide scale or on a personal scale. So anybody who wants to share, you can start.
Yeah, Helese, allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm Dr. Maya, and my dissertation focuses on colorism. So this is like a very important topic to me. So I just want to assert what like colorism is and the difference between racism. So this is me getting into my professor bag for all of like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So racism is going to be the mistreatment of an entire group. So everybody that is Black is being mistreated. In the US, we already know this is how our lives is going to go, making the lives of Black people difficult. But colorism is the preferential treatment of people within that racial group. So basically choosing to treat Black people better based on their skin tone. On the global stage, we can see specific Black people that are being elevated based on skin tone, not only based on skin tone, but the skin tone gives them a platform, in the music industry, in terms of the who they're able to partner with. I remember when Meghan Markle got married, they were like, oh, now Black women can be chosen and now they can be royalty. But I'm like, sir, ma'am, whoever wrote this article, it is the fact that this person is not full Black, right? This person is not stereotypically Black. This person doesn't have Afrocentric features, majority of them. So that Blackness is not the same as our Blackness. But that is an example. Like colorism allows a specific person to be into the royal family, where probably none of us on this chat would be into the royal family. So it's things like that. That is how people can benefit from colorism. So In terms of my experiences within colorism, the DR is always the place I have to go back to because there are people that look just like us in the DR, full range of skin tones. And so we can see the mistreatment or the preferential treatment of people when we're amongst people that all look very similar. So within that space, there was one dude, he was Dominican, he was light skinned. They called this man Blanquito, like as if he was white. I don't know, like little whitey. And everybody in the town called him that. And I'm like, this man is black. And they're like, oh, he light skinned. But that's an example of colorism, right? He gets to be viewed as a white person just for being light skinned. And then for me as a dark skinned person, it's like, why do you keep wearing your hair like that when it could be straightened and you could get some like benefits additionally to wearing that afro? So for me, a lot of times I got compared to being a Haitian when I was in the Dominican Republic because Haiti is very unapologetic about Afrocentrism, right? This is Haiti. Thank you for that revolution that you did. Black people on the front lines encountering these Europeans dying actively so that Haiti could be a Black nation and so it could be free. So we always thank you, Haiti, for the sacrifices that you made and the fact that you shook up the US because they were like, what? The Black people about to start revolting and just taking over all countries. So shout out to Haiti. But yeah, because Haiti is a Black nation, then they're like, you must be from Haiti only because I didn't straighten my hair. That was the only reason I had to be from Haiti because I'm like, we literally have the same skin tone. But what I noticed in the DR, everybody had straight hair. Every single person was wearing straight hair. There was one person that had a wig, only one of all of the people that I saw, but everybody else had straightened hair. And there was very few of us that was wearing natural hair. And predominantly the people wearing natural hair were young girls, like age 10. It was like me and the girls that were age 10. So I worked in the Dominican Republic in an orphanage. So that's where I'm mentioning like this young population. I worked with orphan and abandoned children from ages 0 all the way, or 1 year, all the way up until about 18. And so it was like only the girls that had their natural hair. And then once they became a teenager, they straightened their hair. Like it was like waiting for that moment. Like once I'm at this age, then I can go ahead and straighten. And I want you all to know that even one of my girls, only 10 years old, I say my girl, she's not my girl, but the girl that I worked with, I was assigned to a house of 10-year-old girls. One of the girls that I worked with, she was like, Maya, tengo pelo bueno. And that means I have good hair. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she was like, look at this. Look at this. And like she touched it and her hair is going to be like a loose curl pattern, like a wavy, maybe think like Alicia Keys. And I was like, wow, she was only 10, but she was already like, I got that good. I got that good hair, better than the rest of the people. And we'll walk around and talk about that. So that is enough of my soapbox from the DR. I have a lot of feelings towards this. Yolanda, I know you also wanted to talk about wigs. So if you want to jump in and talk about hair, maybe we can open it up to texturism too. Go for it.
So one thing before I go in onto that, I did want to just say I acknowledge, and I see it here a lot because there is Black community here. It's small. There's not as many Americans or from the United States, but there is a rather large community of Black people. And what I've seen, because every morning, me and another young lady, we go, well, not every morning, about 3 times a week, we go on a nice long walk, getting our exercise in. And you know, you peep a few things, and I definitely seen some of the ladies that are from, I'm not sure what area, if they're like from Africa or somewhere from coming from Latin America, I'm not sure, but it is very obvious that they're doing the skin bleaching. And, you know, at first I was kind of taken aback. I was like, you know, I kept my poker face, you know, I wasn't like, oh, but, you know, it caught my attention and I was like, that's so sad. But then I had to stop and be like, girl, that wasn't your journey. You were not raised in that environment and stuff that was put upon your heart or, you know, in a social being that you're supposed to do this. But it was just so very obvious that there was definite skin bleaching going on. You know, it's whatever we as individuals, as Black women, no matter wherever you come from, whatever it is to make us try to feel better about ourselves. For me, I embrace my wigs. I absolutely embrace my wigs. When I moved here, I had a suitcase just wigs, and it's like I don't trust y'all to even ship them, and with the rest of my stuff, I brought that on the plane with me. So I've been wearing wigs as long as I can remember. And the thing is, here I'll be walking and, and I switch it up, this might be on. And then the next day, I might just be wearing like just a wrap, a scarf wrap. And the next day it's like a whole different color. I try not to, confuse the people in the neighborhood too much, but okay. I've definitely gotten to where in the US, I think like most people nowadays, even white people would be like, oh, well, your hair is different, but they kind of know. They know me, they know it's a wig. Here, it has been oh, muy guapo, muy bonito, oh, tu pelo, they're talking about how gorgeous my hair is. And I'm like, I really don't know. I mean, and it's cool, but they are still learning some things. I'm not saying that they have never seen a Black woman with, extensions in her hair. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes maybe they just don't want to know, or maybe they have no clue. But yeah, I can walk around sometimes with a completely different do and see the same lady at the grocery store. Your hair is so pretty. And she's saying it in Spanish, of course. I'm not going to try to butcher that, but it's an acknowledgement of something that they don't know. Now, as far as my attributes, okay, because I'm a thick chick. I've had a big butt all my life, and even when I was a kid, my family, had said, well, I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, and they would be like, girl, your butt is big. And, and you're traumatized. I thought I was deformed for the longest time, up until I think I was like maybe 18, 19 years old when I realized it's like, oh, this is Black women. Black women have curves and it's okay. So for the longest time, I had felt like there was something wrong with me. So to be here and dress comfortably, and I don't, I'm now I take that back. Now I didn't wear shorts a lot when I was back in the States. Now I'm getting more comfortable just wearing shorts. And yes, my butt is big. It's not going anywhere. I don't care how much weight I lose. My butt is big. So I have the look. Okay. From what I have seen so far, either they do it really on the slide, but I haven't had a man that was just ogling me. It was just like the double take of look. I've had more women do a long look of again, maybe a confusion, like, what's all this? Yes. And I had one lady, I went out with a group of, I met this one that Spanish lady in my neighborhood, and she invited me to go out and meet up with some of her friends at this local cafe bar one night, and met everybody. Everybody was absolutely a joy. And then I accidentally walked up to the wrong table, thinking that was the lady I was hanging out with, and haha, kiki. And I turned around, and the lady cupped my butt. She was like, oh, wow. And I was just like, I thought we were like way past that, because these were super grown people. These were not young. They were like in their 50s too. I'm like, so you just, and of course, it's like, I like Kiki. I left because I was like, I can't even curse you out in Spanish. Because if I curse you out in English, it's yeah. Let it go. It's fine. Like it was just like, it was enough for me that I could have gone off, but also I was like, girl, okay, this was like some weird flashback to yesteryear, and I'm having deja vu, and now it's time for me to go.
Wow. Okay, I was not expecting that.
Boom, boom, boom.
I was not expecting that. Okay, so you kind of went into the hypersexualization aspect of the conversation that we are going to get into. I want to double back though a little bit to the texturism. So Dr. Maya, you brought up a great point. It's almost as if getting your hair straightened is a rites of passage into womanhood in the DR culture. And that is interesting to me because it's almost as if you're saying that the only way to be a woman and to be desirable is to have straight hair. Now, this is not about anti-Blackness abroad in my situation, because I used to work in New York at a couple of different hair salons. So I would be up in there with my hair like this. I would do my, we used to call them Chinese bumps, which is probably another like not so great name for them, but the Nubian knots, what are they called? The Nubian knots. I would just be up in there with any kind of hairstyle I want. And I don't know why they were fully fine with me being the face the the hair salon, even though all they did was like blowouts on white women for the most part, and Latino women, and highlights and things like that, extensions and tape-ins and things like that. So we it was a very international group, and sometimes it would be like a lot of Latinos there, and they would tell me that when I would get braids, like, y'all remember the micro braids where it's like the wet and wavy or the straight or whatever? Oh, you look more sexy with braids, like, and your hair is not done until you have extensions. Your hair is not done until you have something straight and long or curly in there. And even curly, some of the Dominican girls worked at this club. I remember talking to one, and they would come in and get their hair straightened on a regular basis, because for them and their environment in nightlife, their hair was not done unless it was straightened. That was the standard. That's how you knew you were ready for work and ready to serve the people and ready to get the tips from the men and everything, is if your hair was straightened. So it's just really interesting that you mentioned that. And Ulonda, like, I love wigs as well. I love different hairstyles and things like that. So back to Mexico, I was staying in a hostel with a lot of different types of people, a lot of Australians, New Zealanders, and things like that, like super white. I was feeling some type of way, because we would be like on the rooftop having a drink and just like kiking or whatever. And then the next day they would act like they didn't recognize me. And I'm like, I know you see me, like, what is going on? And I literally confronted him, and I was like, hello. I was like, do you not know who I am? And he was like, I literally didn't recognize you, because I think I had the wig on the previous night, and then I had the scarf on the next day, scarf and glasses and hat, completely looking. But I'm like, what other 5'9" tall Black woman do you know who's walking around here? Like, I don't know what it is in me, but I feel like you playing in my face, and I feel like you're playing games. You know what I'm saying? When you act like you don't recognize me, because I know you recognize me. There's not that many Black people in this hotel hostel thing. So I get it. It's like placing your features, recognizing you and who you are. It seems to be difficult for some people. And I just want to say, it was definitely not okay for them to touch you, Ulonda. It was definitely not okay. But I understand your suspension of action. I understand how you froze. I completely get that, because when we experience things that trigger back to like some trauma that we've experienced, or just are completely out of the range of normal for us, it's not always that we're going to snap. Some people do go into freeze mode, and that is also normal. So I'm saying it was okay for you to react or not react. It was not okay for them to do that. And they definitely deserve to get cursed out in any language that you could muster. Heck yeah, why not? I mean, no, that's totally unacceptable. Okay, so because you went into the hypersexualization, you talked about your body. Dr. Maya, I wanted you to go into that a little bit more, maybe set the tone and talk about what that is. And then we can talk about some other experiences that we've had around that.
Of course. I love that. I love where this conversation is going. We could be on anti-Blackness for like 3 hours, because there's so many subtopics. So hypersexualization basically is going to be the obsession or like excessive attention that is given to a person's sexuality. So in general, globally for women, sexualization is a main thing. In magazines, look at the poses of women. At award shows, look at what women are wearing. Look at concerts. Like, just globally, women are often going to be sexualized. This means that they have to be desirable. And this means often that they have to perform for the male gaze. So the male gaze, and like attracting men, doing something where men can like see your body or see that you are desirable and be interested in having a relationship with you, whether they will or they won't. Hypersexualization is going to be specifically for people of color. The hypersexualization is putting people of color kind of into a box, that is all that we can be. So we can see this in multiple groups. We see this along the Latin community. where you'll have people like Sophia, who played in Modern Family. She's Colombian. But if you notice, her character always had really tight dresses, boobs is out to here, always showing the legs, hair is flowing in the wind. Like, she always had to be really desirable. And a lot of Latin women get stereotyped as the spicy Latina. Let's go back to J-Lo in the 90s. How many conversations did we have about J-Lo's butt? How many times did we talk about that in the news? So that is hypersexualization. Then this also happens to Native women. Native women are one of the groups to have faced a sexual assault more than any other group. And that is because people believe that Native women cannot speak up for themselves, or that their bodies are available for anybody's consumption, and that if people are attracted to them, they should be able to do whatever they want to them. And we have found that a lot of times Native women do not get justice when there is a sexual assault or an attack. Finally, Black women. Before we even got here, hypersexualization was a thing in Africa. When Europeans decided they want to colonize, when people just minded their business, and they encountered Africans and they saw that they were wearing, like the cloths, or some women had no tops on, and they thought, oh my gosh, this is just all about sex, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a European. Anyway, and then they had the Hottentot Venus, who specifically was like caged and moved all around Europe. They focused on the butt, like you talked about, Yolanda. This is how we got to the butt. They focused on her butt, and specifically the fact that she was unlike white women. She had a larger butt, and so that had to be the focus of her life. And so the entire time, she was like this show in the circus for Europeans to gawk at her and look at her butt. So then after they forcibly brought Africans to the United States, then we have these white men, we had these colonizers, we had these masters, whatever you want to call them. They had non-consensual relationships with enslaved Black women. They believed that Black women, it was impossible to have a sexual assault with the Black women. They believed that Black women were promiscuous and lascivious and always ready to be at the sexual beck and call of these men. A lot of Black women served as concubines to these masters, obviously not wanting that. Then that brings us to today, where Black women still are very heavily sexualized in the media. If we look at some of our artists, like looking at Meg Thee Stallion, if we're looking at Nicki Minaj, if we're looking at Lotto, if we're looking at even a Beyonce, if we're looking at Rihanna, right? Like, they all have times and parts within their catalog where they were revealing their body by choice or not by choice, but basically they had to be desirable in order for people to be interested in them. And I think that Destiny's Child actually is a really good example, because I remember Michelle, specifically in Destiny's Child, wore pants a lot. And people are always like, man, Michelle not even showing nothing, like, da, 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 we not even interested, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, maybe she was a little bit more conservative. She would go on to sing gospel music. But that's an example of, like, there's an expectation that we should be showing these bodies. We should be desirable. If you go and look at red carpets, you will often see Black women showing bodies. I mean, like, some of the stuff is just shocking, right? Thinking about the Little Kim era, where she just had the little pasty on the boob. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm being serious. Like, this is where we are with it. Is like Little Kim's whole rollout was hypersexualization, right? The cover where she had the legs open, like, it's a whole thing. And so I'm not just pointing at one Black person. I think as a collective, there is an expectation for Black women to show that body, to be desirable, to show that booty. And then that gets us to BBL. Now, we don't have time for BBL, because that is going to be a whole nother situation. But the point is, there's an expectation of Black women, similar to what Yolanda is talking about, of having a big butt. So then those people that don't have a big butt, or have a medium-sized big butt, are like, let me get this Brazilian butt lift, BBL, in order to be able to have a big butt and be desired by men. That is hypersexualization.
Yeah, Yolanda, go ahead. You said that you had something to say.
So as far as like the fetish, I can't even say the word, fetishization. Why can't I say the word? That word. Okay.
Fetishization. I had to break it up.
I'm like, syllable. Okay. Anyways. So as far as that, I know that there are men in the world that fetishize about certain things that a person that they might be attracted to. It's what they want. And I understand that there's a difference between fetishizing someone or certain attributes and actually just genuinely being attracted to someone. So, case in point, Gary Owens, the comedian, he likes Black women. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's him. I don't consider that to be him fetishizing. Sorry if I'm jacking this word up. Anyways, I don't consider it to be that he's in that realm. But I know I've dated, I've never been married, and I've dated long enough to know that I know when a man is out with me or wants to get with me because I'm on his bucket list. Okay. I peep that quick and I know it. Because, I don't need you if I'm dating or if someone's trying to approach me, I want to know that you want to talk to me. I don't need you to approach me like I'm brand freaking new, like I'm a brand new car, just shiny and just like, ooh. You are not somebody that's going to be of value to me because you only hold one thing about me somewhere that's of value. Here in and this is something that's been happening from, when I was in the States. No matter where you go in the world, it happens. But I have recently gotten on the dating apps and then I got right off. But I got on for a while. And even with, the few communications that I was possibly going to meet with somebody, and it was very easy to tell, even in the brief conversations, like, okay, I see what's going on here. You know what? And if you're just looking for a hookup, that's fine. That's still separate from fetishizing someone. Okay. If you're just looking for a hookup and you're just going down the list, like hitting up 20 people and see how many, will actually receive back and be like, okay, yes, you might get one person. But if you are clearly like, I really just love your skin. I've had guys that are just like, just the skin, like, oh, your caramel skin. It's like, oh, it's just so it's like, how do you do that? It's like, I don't paint myself. This is me. There's more to me than the skin. And, because I don't wake up looking like this. Okay. Okay. So if you want to get to know me, you're going to get to know a whole other side of me. So thank you for the skin compliment, and the butt stays with me no matter what. But again, I just recognize when it is a bucket list desire and not a real desire to get to know me, and that's across anywhere that I've been. Period. But it brought me back to years ago. I had went out with this guy a couple of times. He was older. I think I was like maybe 40, and I think he said he was 55, but I found out later on he was actually 65. He just had like all kinds of plugs and all this stuff. Anyways, the bottom line was he seemed genuinely interested in me, but what turned me off was he said he could not ever date. He'd always been attracted to Black women, but he could never date them. And I said, why not? He says, oh, because my father would have disowned me. This man is 65. I was the first Black woman that he ever dated because his father had just died. And I was like, so yeah, I'm out. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's bad enough when you lied about your age because you are not 55. But yeah, and I appreciated him being honest with me because I really don't think that he saw a problem with what he just told me. So yeah, you learn.
Wow. Yeah, and it is kind of difficult, right? Like, because when you know who you are, I mean, it makes sense that somebody would just be so enamored with you, right? Like, I don't know, that's how I feel. I'm like, yeah, of course you're gonna be like, oh, your skin, whatever. Like, I mean, how am I supposed to determine whether or not you just really recognize what's up, or you actually just have me on a bucket list and you're just like fetishizing me. I
It's
do
a
think
little bit extra thirsty looking.
it's a subtle, yeah, it's a subtle difference. It's like, ill, now you're just being a little bit of a creep. But really being totally enamored with, because when I'm attracted to someone, I'm very much into all of their features. And I'm just like, oh my God, how do you do that is wild. I'm sorry, but that's so weird. How do you do that? It's like, how do I be Black? How do I be melanin? It's just melanin, baby. I don't know how to explain it, you know? So I think it is important if you're a woman, even if you're a man, it's important that when you go to these places, you kind of know how to pick up on the subtle differences of energy of when you're being fetishized versus when someone just genuinely likes you. So Vaughn, what do you have to say about it?
I think this is very interesting. I have lots of thoughts, but I know we have like 9 minutes left before the Q&A. So
please take your time. Please take your time. Please take your time.
So colorism exists everywhere, right? Like I grew up in Ghana for a bit as a kid. And in Ghana, like you have to cut off your hair. And the only person that wasn't allowed to cut off their hair in my class was a light-skinned girl. She was allowed to keep her hair. I had an old neighbor that went to Ghana a few years ago, and she had her hair in like faux locks, and she has what's considered good hair, like loosely curled hair. And she was saying that she's like Yolanda's complexion, maybe a little bit lighter, and how when she took out her faux locks, people treated her a lot differently, right? And I grew up in Ghana, so I understand that. Like colonialism, texturism, featureism is like pollution, right? Unless you're actively have an air purifier in your house and you're trying to fight the pollution, you are going to breathe it. I think what's really interesting about this conversation as it pertains to dating is, like you mentioned, that fine line between fetishization and appreciation. I think, as someone who I feel like has dated the UN, I have dated men of all stripes. I think it's like Ulonda, like you kind of mentioned, it's that personal kind of like barometer, right? You have to decide, because I think a part of it is multifold, right? Like I am a dark-skinned woman. I am a woman who looks like I am from Africa, right? Like when people tell me that I'm not quite American, it's because, yeah, I was born here, but I'm also, I'm not quite American, right? But I also think that has women sometimes, especially has dark-skinned women, especially the more phenotypically Black you look like, right? The more you have the kinky hair, the darker skin, the features that symbolize that you're from the continent, the more people feel like, the more you're fetishized, right? But I also do think that as Black women, we have kind of been sold this idea that we're the least desirable on the beauty totem, right? And that the people who are most desirable are the people who are white or fit into that, that level of whiteness, which isn't true, right? And so I think when it comes to dating, it's often hard because I do think like sometimes people do appreciate your skin complexion, your skin tone. I'm not saying everyone, because there are definitely some people who have fetishized me for my skin tone and, for example, my lips and like my hair and my features. But I do think that because as Black women, especially if you grow up with phenotypically Black features or not, like you are told like, this is not great, this is not great, this is not great. Or an example with Dr. Maya, you're talking to the Dominican girl, her hair, like, oh, your hair was great, right? So you're taught what features are bad and what features are good as Black women. So when someone comes along and they appreciate the things that people have been telling you for decades, that is undesirable, it kind of is a little bit of a cognitive dissonance, right? It's a little bit like, why do you like the things that people have told me I shouldn't like? And so I say that because I do think that there are people out there who do recognize the beauty of Black women. Because I do think that if you're attractive, right? It doesn't matter like your race or nationality, anything of that sort. And this is not me defending men. I want to put that out there. Like, I am not defending men either, but I also do think that we are told as Black women, like I said, especially the more phenotypically Black you are, that your features are not desirable and that you should be lucky if someone likes you for who you are. And I feel like that's bullshit. And I feel like that's a lie. And I feel like sometimes when people do like us for those features that we have been demonized about, we call it fetishization when it honestly isn't. Because I am, yes, I am dark skinned, but I also do have a beautiful skin tone. Like, objectively speaking, like, I think my hair is amazing.
You do. I want to second that.
Thank you. I think my hair is amazing. My hair is healthy, it's thick, it's growing. Like, I look at myself and I appreciate myself. I know that I always did not feel this way because people did not want to make me feel this way. And I date people who appreciate me. It doesn't matter if they're Black or not. I mean, honestly, Black men don't really look at me like that for the reasons, for the physical features that I appreciate myself for, right? Not all Black men, but you know, like I said, colorism is pollution that we all breathe in various degrees. So Yolanda, to your point, like, yeah, people do fetishize. Like, the first time I went to Spain, I was there for 3 weeks and I was with a Spaniard and this old man grabbed my butt on the escalator and she cursed him out in Spanish. And I was like, yeah, it's because I'm dark skinned. You probably think I'm a sex worker or, you know, I'm a prostitute from somewhere on the continent, right? Would you have done that to me if I was lighter skinned or presented as biracial? Probably not, right? Like, I don't really know. But I do know that as a dark skinned woman, yeah, I am sexualized, right? We talk about the Jezebel stereotypes, the sapphire stereotypes, right? Like, it is what it is. But I do want to provide a little bit of nuance because I don't think that it's a bad thing that people do appreciate us for the same features that we've been told we shouldn't like.
I love how you put that because that's probably a little bit of what I was trying to convey, that I am in love with myself because of some of these same features that I've had to work to love, particularly just my body, my height, you know, my hair texture or whatever it is. Dr. Maya, you were back there on mute, on fire. What do you want to add to this? And then let me just kind of like zoom out a little bit before you go into that. We had another subtopic that we were going to talk about: immigrants versus expatriates. We can get into that a little bit, but I also know that we do have to go into the questions in the chat. Now, I was looking at the chat. I don't see a ton of questions. There's a lot of comments though. So Dr. Maya, you know, you can go ahead and add what you want to say about this. And then let me know if you want to go straight into the chat questions or talk a little bit about immigrant versus expatriate, you know, that topic.
Thank you, Helese. I just want to tell you, you're doing a fantastic job as facilitator. Love this for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, I think we can go into that topic because, like you said, there are not a lot of questions. So, okay, I just have so much. Okay, let me just boom, boom, boom. All right. I want to go back to texturism and the fact that I had a friend from Nigeria. She's Nigerian American. She would go visit Nigeria to see her family. They begged her to fix her hair because it was natural. And so she was like, I did a compromise and I braided it. So instead of like going straight, which is probably what they preferred, she was like, I'll compromise. I'll just get some braids. But she felt the pressure from her own family in Nigeria to change the hair. The second thing is that this German dude was interested in me and he was like, I would be interested in getting with you, but it's the hair for me. It's a no. The next thing is that y'all mentioned prostitution. When I was on the beach in the Dominican Republic, I was with 2 white women that were volunteers with me in the orphanage. And a man came up to me and he said, how much? And I was like, how much for what? And then the women were like, oh, he thinks you're a prostitute. So that is definitely a thing, like globally thinking that Black women are prostitutes. I've heard women talk about that in Italy too. Then my mom is in the chat. She was in Dubai and there was this guy that is darker skinned and his family is also darker skinned. And he mentioned, similar to what Yolanda said, that his family said he could not date a Black woman. And my mom was like, but you're dark skinned. And he was like, that's not the point, right? Like this is another thing that I think is very confusing, is that people that are darker skinned, like an Indian person could be darker skinned, but then they're like colorist towards us. And you're like, but you're dark too. And so I don't even think that sometimes it's just about the fact that your skin tone is darker. It's the fact of like where you're from. It's like, yeah, we could both be dark skinned, but I'm not from, you know, my ancestors are not from Africa. So done. Girl, bye. Anyway, Then fetishization is the word that we have all been like having struggles with. I have struggles with that word too. So I'm gonna get into that. In Colombia, there is this woman who has partnered with an Afro-Latin man, so a black man in Colombia, but black Colombian from Colombia. And her son has turned out to like have a medium skin tone, but like maybe more light. And she saw me and she was like, Maya, love your hair. I just want to have an afro. And she's Colombian, not like Afro, not Afro Latin, right? And she was like, I wish my son had dark skin like yours in front of the sun. I'm like, okay. And then finally, I'll say for hypersexualization, when I was in Spain, this guy saw me and he said, me encanta chocolate, like I love chocolate. So let me just take a real brief pause right here and get on a very small soapbox for dark skinned people. Do not tell us that you like chocolate. We don't care what you like. We are not a chocolate bar. We are not a dessert. This is not a Hershey Kiss. We are a person. So stop saying chocolate. I ain't got nothing to do with chocolate. If you want to talk about skin tone, we can talk about that. But I, as a person, am not a chocolate bar. Moving on. Argentina, I was at a party and this guy was like, everybody in this party wants to sleep with you. We can also connect this with age because like every man in that party was like 40 years old. Why was I at this party? I was at this party for my host brother and it was like the family. So it was, I wasn't just like at a party full of creeps. But he was like, everybody wants to sleep with you. And I was like, that's really weird. And then I realized it was fetishization. It's like, you're black and we're all very interested. Argentina has killed its whole black population, or not as many black people are there because of the things that have happened. So he like, let's get it. Anyway. And then finally in Colombia, there was this man that I trusted that also tried to get with me. And I just started thinking to myself, like, why is it that every country I go to, somebody trying to get with me? Like, bro, I'm just here trying to learn Spanish. I'm just here trying to learn language. I'm just here trying to eat food, but every single time. And similar to what y'all mentioned earlier about being tall, I'm 5'7". And so I think that's a big thing. Like, because I'm a taller person, I would describe myself as athletic built. And so I think people are like, whoa, you know, I've been called Serena Williams my whole life. Like, and I just be like, I'm just trying to exist. When I was in Argentina, 16 years old, y'all, I'm 16 years old and I would have to walk to school every single day. And these men will catcall me. They had to be like 30 years old, catcall me every single day. They would stop at the construction site. They would look at me and they would say whatever they said. At that time, I could not speak Spanish, so I can't tell y'all what they said, but I know it made me feel uncomfortable. So I'm like walking all the way around, taking a whole nother route to avoid these men, you know, gawking at me. So that is hypersexualization. I appreciate you, Vonnie, for what you said, that sometimes people can just appreciate our features. I think you'll know who those people are because it won't just be the only thing they talk about. The fetishizers are like, the hair, oh my God, look at your body. Like, what that body do? Stop. Like, no. The person will value you for who you are and also be like, you know, even though people told you those things about your skin or your hair, like that's a lie. You look great, whatever. In the same way, that we are not fetishizers and we can compliment each other like, hey, Vonnie, you looking good today. Okay, I see you, Helese. I see you, Ulonda, right? But we not fetishizing nothing. So you won't know when a person is a fetishizer or not. And if they are, dump them. It's not a good relationship to be with somebody that's just fetishizing you based on your features. That's all I have to say on that, Helese.
Definitely. And that, you know, so everything is energy. It's about self-love. And I think that's a journey that doesn't just happen. So people may end up in these weird situations and not really understand until they reflect back on the situation, like little things that were said and realize, oh, okay, like this person was actually fetishizing me. So we're giving grace to people who definitely are in those situations. Just like I want to touch on, Yolanda, you gave grace to women who bleach, because at the end of the day, where do you have to be in your psyche to actually bleach your skin with the harm that it does? You know, I mean, that's a completely different, like many of us may not be able to relate to that. And I think it is important to give grace to people who are still on their self-love journey and who may never get to where we are as if we're on some higher level. It's not that, but it's just that this is a very multifaceted, complex, and deep-rooted issue within the individual and the society. So it's really important to keep that in mind when we talk about like where people are and what they choose to do and how they choose to make themselves look, even with the BBLs and everything like that. The first woman who I ever saw in person get a BBL was a white Brazilian woman who worked at one of the salons that I worked at. And it is called a Brazilian butt lift. And even though there's a lot of Black women in Brazil, a lot of those women in Brazil were not Black who were, getting those surgeries when they first started. So I think it's important to just know, like, we are talking about the world, and there's so many different cultures and understandings. But of course, hopefully you have that inner radar within yourself to know when someone is like, only using you just for a certain experience. And somebody in the chat said, why are they so obsessed? So lately I've been binging on lectures from a woman named Dr. Jewel Pilgrim. And there's another one who also used to do lectures on white supremacy and why white people operate the way that they do in society. She really slips my mind, but if someone could figure it out, she basically talked about how white people operate in this way because they basically are afraid of being obliterated in society through the mixing of races. So when it comes to people, Black people and white people coming together and making children, eventually how they used to say the whole world is eventually going to be like some kind of ambiguous or biracial or whatever type of thing. And white people basically like not really exist anymore. This is why they want to co-create with us. This is like why they want dark skin. They know that there's a like, melanin is not just a dark skin tone. Melanin is your ability to interact on the electromagnetic spectrum. Like it's the ability to interact with your environment in a deeper way. And Dr. Jewel Pilgrim breaks down all the science of this. So there is a huge reason as to why they envy our skin, why they want to suppress us. It's very complex and deep. So I'm like, when I look at it from that scientific and metaphysical point of view, I'm like, it's for them, they're just speaking a matter of fact when they say, I wish my son was dark skinned. You know what I'm saying? They're just speaking a matter of fact when they say, I wish I had curly hair. What they're saying is, I wish I had the ability to interact with my environment on a deeper level, like the way you do. And they can see that we can, because melanin, the skin tone, like I said, is one aspect of it, but it's so much deeper than just skin tone. The presence of melanin is an indicator that you're able to interact with your environment in a different way. Anyway, look up the science. I just had to put that out there because we're talking about anti-Blackness abroad. I want to talk a little bit about being an expat versus immigrant and how you can be viewed around the world. I have a story about that. So here in Mexico, one of my best friends here is a DJ. She throws amazing parties. She basically threw a party. It attracts a lot of Black people. So we're out there hanging out, sitting outside the bar, drinking, whatever. A couple of white dudes come along. They're Mexican, but they're white dudes come along, and they're like drinking and being really aggressive with us while we're sitting out here, just chilling. And like you said, Dr. Maya, existing. You just want to exist without having to deal with the BS. And this is something that they were not trying to allow us to do that night. So we're just sitting there and talking, and they come up to us. They're like, where are you from? Where are you from? And they're like really aggressively asking us where we're from. Now, me personally, I will answer that question with grace depending on the situation. But if I'm just out in the world, I feel like, who are you to come up to me out of nowhere and ask me where I'm from? You know what I mean? If I'm in someone's house and one of their family members who doesn't, I'm there with a friend, one of their family members doesn't know me, they ask me, okay, it makes sense. But it's like, I'm just out in the world walking around. I've had people ask me that, just where are you from, out of nowhere, assuming that I can't be from where you are, right? They never heard me talk. So how do they know? So anyway, I'm not trying to answer the question. Somebody who I'm speaking to answers the question, and I'm just like, sitting there observing. And then they're like, well, I think they said, this is the word they use, colonizers. Black people can be colonizers too. Black people can be colonizers too. And I'm just like, not you of European descent who's Mexican. You're not even indigenous Mexican. Like, what are you talking about? But how quickly they forget They forget just because you've been here for hundreds of years doesn't mean that your origins still didn't come from colonization. So I think because we were Black women, and it was specifically because we were women, because there were men around, but they were not talking to them aggressively like that. Turns out their friends later on told us that they were drunk, they were on coke as well. So they were really acting out of pocket. I eventually snapped. I eventually had to walk away because it's like, it's only so much I can take before I snap. You know what I mean? But I realized that, yeah, you will be targeted. You could be, I'm not going to put that on anyone. You could be targeted just because you're Black and spoken to in a way that they wouldn't speak to other white people who are moving in, starting businesses, you know what I'm saying? And doing doing the same thing that they did in the States or Europe, and, you know, doing it over here with no issues, no respect for the culture. They don't care, you know, what problems they're causing by being there. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm Black. If you know anything about being Black in America, I'm literally escaping my situation. And anybody who wants to have a better life is going to do that. They're not really thinking about what it's going to do to the people who are there. You know what I mean? You're literally just trying to live a better life for yourself. I think that the way, I feel like the way that Black women do it is different than the way that everybody else does it. I think that Black women are gifted, not every single one of us, but as a whole, as a group, you can see we're gifted with empathy in a way that other groups aren't. So we're automatically going to move different because we're not coming from the same privilege that other groups are. So, but it was interesting. Again, it's I guess they just feel like, you know, being a Black woman is just total open range for you to just attack us when we're sitting there trying to exist in a space that was created where everybody's welcome, but it's just a space that we happen to create for ourselves, but also welcome others. And so that's why, another thing, we do have really protected Black women spaces. And wherever country you go to, you can find them. You can find them online, and they, you know, materialize in real life. They get out of the group chat, and it's really important to find those protected Black spaces too when you do travel abroad, even if you just are visiting. Some of the men, like I said, had to pretty much come in and just kind of counteract that machismo that was being displayed when these men decided to attack us and call us colonizers just for being there. To wrap up what I'm saying about this, I'm not saying that no matter who you are, when you come to these countries and you're doing economic arbitrage, you know, you're getting paid in your currency, your US currency, your Euro currency, and spending money that the local people wouldn't have to spend, and that is contributing to raising prices. I'm not saying that that's not happening. I'm not saying that we're not acknowledging that. I'm saying that at the end of the day, that's not going to stop people from trying to move abroad and have a better quality of life. The best thing that you can do is understand what's going on, try to keep your ear to the street about what's going on, and interact with people and really ingratiate yourself in the culture as much as possible, and just move with respect. Because at the end of the day, I have only gotten that type of hate from white Mexicans, period. And not all white Mexicans. I'm just saying, when it does happen to be hate, it's always white Mexicans. That's point blank, period. So, anyone else?
Go ahead, Yolanda.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I was like, ooh, if that happened, I'm having flashbacks to stuff. But, you know, again, I always say, you know, I love being here in Spain. I have had 95% of the time, I've had good experiences, maybe 90. But there are some that stay with you. You know, I joined a language exchange where they would meet, I think they would meet like once a week um, at some little local Irish bar. Okay. But they would go there. And I remember everybody was very nice, because usually they say it's a language exchange, but in actuality, they want to speak English. So you're speaking English, and then they say, you know, once we have enough drinks in this, then we'll start speaking Spanish, and you can practice then. Okay. So, but I just remember there was one gentleman who, he was arrogant. He just was, but he tried. He really did try me. He's like, so, you know, why are you here? Why do you want to stay? And at this point, they had known me a little bit because I had come to visit. But once they found out that I actually live here now, I was much more embraced and welcomed into some other, you know, groups. But he would just try and just ask, like, so why are you here? I mean, like, what's wrong with the US? And I just looked at him and I just told him, I'm not going to engage with you. I know what you're doing. I said it, and I said, I know you understand me in perfect English. I'm not going to engage with you. And he was like, no, I'm just it's just an honest answer. No, it's not. Boy, turn someplace else. You know, yeah. So you can call me the angry Black woman. I don't care, but I'm not going to engage with you. You can't make me. And I remember after the little orange man, you know, came back into office, and I specifically, I was like, I'm not going to that language exchange because I don't need anybody asking me how I'm feeling. I don't want to discuss it. I'm here in this country, and I'm embracing the culture, the community, the people here. I don't need a therapy session where you're gonna see me get pissed off and have, you know, vomitus of the mouth about how ignorant I feel the situation is. We're not doing that. So, and that's actually a rule in another group that I belong to, in the Internations group that I belong to. I've gone to different events, and I see, like, I'll sit at a table and they're like, we're not talking politics, especially like if there's a bunch of English speakers, you know, from all over the world. And I've had that situation where, like, there'll be one guy that's just trying to, like, oh, let's go ahead and let's poke the bear. And just, you know, just to try to have the conversation. It's like, no, we're not engaging. We're not doing that. I wanted to, as far as, you know, the expats and the immigrants, you know, right now I'm an expat. I never thought I actually eventually I would like to become an immigrant. My daughter, my youngest daughter, I have 3 daughters, and the one that lives here, she's been toying back and forth about actually becoming a citizen here. And I have another, like, 8 years before I could even try, because I have to be here 10 years. So, but I'm an expat right now. People think expat, when they think about it, they're like, oh, it's just it's just an uppity word for an immigrant. And I've heard this so many times. It's like, it's just rich people saying that they're immigrants, but they don't want to call themselves immigrants. From what I understand, though, it's like expats is temporary, and immigrants is when you're actually doing, like, your end game is that you want to actually live in this country forever, like you want to stay here. Okay, so I am right now. I am an expat, and I think with all of my heart and being, because I haven't felt this much peace in a long time, I'd like to possibly. But again, I got 10 years, so I'll go back and forth. But I'm embracing learning all the nuances of it and figuring it out. What was the other thing I was going to mention? Oh, yes, and I did have, in one of the other expats groups, the Internations group, we met up, and there was a lady that spoke, like, perfect English. And, you know, like, I had never talked to her before, and we were going for a morning walk. It was like a group of, like, maybe 6 of us, and we were just walking. And she just turns to me and she's like, so, you know, why are you here? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, how did you get here? I moved here a year ago, you know, well, 6 months ago. So she's like, oh, but how are you staying? And see, after a while, I realized that it was actually just genuine questions, but my defenses was up. It's like, why you in my business? Okay. You got something to say about it? Okay. And I had to, now, I did not approach her like that. My way of addressing her was to give very short answers that was like, I'm not telling you squat. But after a while, I did realize that it was just genuine communication, but I didn't take it like that. And maybe she noticed, and maybe she switched it up on the cool. I don't know. But there was just something about, and I think I got it from, like, the Women at Exodus Summit. You know, they're like, I think Stephanie Perry and Rashida were, like, on this yacht or whatever, and people were, like, trying to figure out why were they on the yacht, you know, and the other people that were on there were like, what special event got you on this yacht? And they were like, just because. And that's how I kind of answered the lady as we were walking on this beautiful Saturday morning here in Zaragoza, just embracing the beauty. And you're questioning me. And I'm like, why? Because I can. That's why. That's why I'm here. Okay.
Sorry, got to jump in here and say, as you should answer it, because I can. How did you get here? I flew.
Yes.
I teleported here.
Business class. What?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just materialized. Or even
Yeah.
better, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm happy. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm happy. Just neutralize the whole thing. I'm sorry. I just want to jump in there and say that because that is definitely
It hit something.
not okay. It's not okay because there's a tone. There's a little tone signifier that says that I'm asking you this because I don't think you should be here.
Yeah, that's
And
what I was getting.
yeah,
Like maybe I'm jumping the gun.
don't doubt yourself on that because I
Yeah.
definitely feel some type of way. I feel like she was
Yeah.
being a little shady.
Yes. Okay. I see
Okay,
what you're trying to do.
if I could jump in here, I will also say one thing that was a common misconception is that as Black people, we had to be celebrities in order to be there. So, like in China, people are like, they thought I was LeBron, like you just couldn't be a regular Black person, just happened to be in China, apparently. I don't know. I also wanted to talk about what you all said about like an expat versus an immigrant. And when I was in Colombia, a lot of times people were always asking me for money. They're like, hey, could you give me this amount of pesos? Could you help me with this? And I'm like, girl, I'm Black. Like, what you mean? I still got family back home. I'm trying to take care of some people. Like, what are you doing? Ask these white people. But there's this assumption, that y'all had already said that Americans are rich. We could really go into that. And I'm like, what gave I was rich? I don't understand. I'm struggling like you. I don't know. And then in Tanzania, we were getting souvenirs or whatever. And this guy is like, hey, could y'all help me out? Could you buy something from me? And we were like, there's white people right here. Why don't you ask them? He was like, the white people never give. I'm like, that's crazy. They're going to sit out here and steal everything in the world and not give nothing back to you? Don't have time for that. And then one thing that would be great to talk about, Helese, I think you would be really good with this, is Mexico City and gentrification. So many people, so many Mexican people are upset about this. So many Americans are talking about this, how they're like taking over the area in Mexico City, completely creating areas where they're rising prices and Mexican people in the space cannot even afford to live there. And I also wanted to mention like how people are confused that you would want to leave the US. They're like, the US is so great. Like, why wouldn't you want to be there? Why would you go anywhere else but that? I'm like, have you watched the news for just like 5 minutes? I don't understand. But Assata Shakur, one of our living legends, she was a political prisoner. You all can look up all the information. I actually have a video on her and all that she contributed to us and our liberation. She escaped from prison in the US and lived in Cuba. And she said they always called her a liar. Every time she talked about like this happened in the US, they did this, talking about the brutalization, dehumanization, the way they beat her up in public, like some wild things. You all should read her biography. Her autobiography is very, very good. And they're like, that's a lie. Like, I ain't never heard that before. And so I was talking to somebody in my life and we were like, I think that people are not listening when Black people are like, listen, we're under attack. They're mistreating us in the US, police brutality, Black Lives Matter. They're like, skip all of that. I'm interested in coming because I can be safe and comfortable in the US, right? I'm from this place and they're mistreating, I don't know, the specific person in this place. I'm being targeted. Being in this space in the US is not going to target me in the same way that my country of origin is targeting me. And so I just think in general, the one thing that we have to realize is that in a space, someone is being targeted. If it's not you, it's somebody else, right? If you're benefiting from American privilege, look to your left and see who's not benefiting. Look to the person that actually is being harmed. So when people come to the US and they're like, this is so great, I'm having such a good time, remember that it's off of our backs that you're having a great time. They're giving you opportunities because they won't give the opportunities to us. And this is to all of the immigrants, all of the people that are here in the US, all the people that got opportunities to be here, all the Europeans that are not from the US. They're giving you opportunities off of our ancestors who did the work for us to be here and not benefit from anything, right? We got people creating restaurants all the time. Latinos, I'm talking to you. When y'all get to have y'all Mexican restaurants all the time, but Black Black people can't have not one damn business in this entire country. Like, think about that. Think about the Asian people who are benefiting. And even though this is not a great job, I'm not saying that it's a great job, working in dry cleaning, working and paint people's nails. I know that it's not a fun job, but you could at least have your own business and you can hire your own. We don't even get that opportunity in our own space where we live. Think about Tulsa burning. Think about how they have constantly started riots and thrown bombs into Black communities and harmed Black people whenever they were getting an opportunity in the US. So if you are benefiting from the US, if you're having a good time in the US, if you're making a lot of money in the US, money that Black people will never make, it is because they're giving you an opportunity that they're not giving us. And in the same way, when we go abroad, and we're out here having a great time. And this is like to Black Americans, what we have done, where we're like, oh my God, this place is so cheap. Like, love Latin America, about to get all the drinks, about to get all the food. Oh my God, that souvenir, it's only $1, girl. Of course, give me 10. Think about the people who can't even buy one of the things you're buying. Think about the people that are starving in that country while you get to get 2 entrees, an appetizer, and 2 drinks. So I'm just saying globally, like, we all need to think about the impact that we're making. And if you're having a good time in a space, it's because somebody else is not.
Period. I mean, I don't even think I need to add to that. Yes, we can talk a little bit about, you kind of wrapped up the whole gentrification thing in that spiel. So thank you, Dr. Maya. I think this would be a good time to go into the comments. They are pretty lit. And I want to just thank everyone for participating in this conversation today. It's complex. It's a funny conversation. It's a sad conversation. It's an angering conversation. And unfortunately, Dr. Maya, I think we got to do this again. Just, we got to just, bring up a different round of people. I would love to facilitate again if possible, though maybe some people from the comments would like to join and give their experiences. But I think this is something that deserves more time and more depth. So
you did an amazing job, Helese. I know my mom is sitting at home like, here she go. So many times she tried to be like, Maya, could you say things like this? Like, Maya, maybe she'll calm down. And then eventually she's like, this is just who she is. Like,
I don't want you to calm down. Never
her
that.
personality.
I think you have
embrace it.
Right
Embrace it.
Calm. Yeah.
Embrace it. You all are fantastic. I am so glad I chose you all. This is like handpicked because I knew that we could go there with this conversation. All right, so we're in the chats. The Awkward Black Nomad. Hey, girl, you've been in the chat. We appreciate you all the way from Seoul, okay? The first question we have is, what about the idea that you must be from somewhere other than the US? I think that we kind of mentioned this within our conversation about how it's like othering, like you just couldn't be from the place that a person is. Then Marissa, our favorite moderator, we appreciate you. She says, I think media plays a huge role in shaping people's perception of what Americans look like. This is so true. That's how we got that rich stereotype, because I'm like, girl, when? Like, what day was I ever? Let me know so I can reminisce on the day I was ever rich, please. Okay, so
what is it? In Texas, they're always, whether if you're visiting Texas or if they find out that I'm from Texas, it's like, oh my goodness, you must have so many horses. You must, I mean, yes, I got the horses, I got boots, I got cowboy hats, I got oil wells somewhere. Sometimes that's what they think. It's like, really?
Really? Exactly.
That's,
we didn't even,
that's how I'm here.
Yolanda, we didn't even get into like how Black people are portrayed in the media and what they think about us abroad. So, okay, Vonnie, this question is going to be for you. People justify anti-Blackness in Asian countries, even Black people, because they're mono-ethnic. What are your thoughts? Why do you think Black people excuse away fetishizing?
Okay, so my understanding of this question is kind of similar to what you experienced in China with like the anti-Blackness. This is interesting. I don't know if Black people excuse fetishizing. I think of Yolanda, I think about what happened to you and like the whole woman grabbing your butt and you didn't say anything, right? Like usually a response, trauma response is like what? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? Those are like our normal responses. I don't I can only speak personally, Kyoko. I don't think that Black people excuse fetishization. I think that sometimes when we're in a foreign country, we don't know the norms, we don't know the language. We try to take the least possible route of resistance. Because if you do say something, you can end up in trouble. I had a friend that went to Barcelona years ago, and a bartender refused to serve her. And she was trying to get her attention. The bartender called her the N word, and she went across the bar and smacked her, which landed her in jail for a night. And they told her she had to come back, and she flew straight to the States. And of course, she did not come back to Barcelona. And I feel like that bartender absolutely deserved it, right? I think, especially now in this climate, traveling as a Black person, as a Black American, I think we're just really, really careful. So, I mean, I'm sure there are people that excuse fetishization. I can't speak for everyone. I know people in my circles don't. I think what we try to do is a survival mechanism and a way to like reduce friction, right? Because a lot of travel, yes, we are getting to know new people, acclimating ourselves to a culture for however long that we're there. But we're also not trying not to be in trouble, right? We also are trying to navigate a country where we don't know the customs and the norms and the language. And we're also, honestly, we're also trying to have a good time, right? Like a lot of travel is pleasurable. So reducing that friction and, I think a lot of it, I read this thing that's like, did you have a bad day? Did you have a bad 5 minutes, right? It's recognizing when you had a bad 5 minutes and a bad day and putting that in context. Because to travel is a privilege, right? But it's also expensive. And I think for me personally, like I said, when I got my butt grabbed, of course I never forgot that, but I tried not to let that taint my trip. Because it was my first time in Spain. I was there for a few weeks, and I wanted to have a good time. So I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Vonnie. That was really, really good. Yeah, definitely needing to respect the norms and the culture of a place. But if you being disrespected, I don't know, but we don't want to go to jail too. Some of these places are really throwing people in jail. I heard like the Middle East, maybe. So also knowing where you are, read the room, read the country. Okay, also from Kyoka, Meghan Markle didn't even see herself as Black. That's the gotcha. They were like, finally, a Black woman can be in the royal family. And she was like, I didn't even realize I was Black. We could have a whole conversation with Meghan, but she's not ready for our smoke. Anyway, back to Kyoka. Wait, we were talking about the way Black Americans are viewed by other people in the diaspora around the world, shakes tables, calls Europe. Yeah, the thing is that we are viewed in very different ways depending on where we are. So definitely always making sure that we are paying attention to the customs. And one of the biggest recommendations I have is to find out how Black people are being treated in the space that you're going to. Sometimes there are no Black people, so that should tell you something. And then sometimes it's full of Black people, that should tell you something. So, yes.
So here's my thing on that, because of where I live here in Zaragoza, so people are always asking me, it's like, so what's the Black vibe like? It's like, look, I'm a party of one, and I think in a certain different, I carry myself in a certain way and stuff, and so I'm gonna walk in like I'm supposed to be here, first of all. But with that, as this community starts to grow, I'm super excited. Like just this coming Sunday, we're having like a breakfast Sunday morning, and there's like one lady that's visiting for the weekend from that lives in Madrid. I met a wonderful young lady that has lived here for 15 years, and she's from Ghana. I have another young lady that just moved here to Zaragoza yesterday. So I'm looking forward to, especially speaking with the lady that's lived here for 15 years from Ghana, because I want to know more and bond not just with the Black uh, Black U.S. citizens. I want to know. I want to learn what it's like and how we can be there for each other. Now don't get me wrong. Not every Black person that comes to my life that comes into Zaragoza am I going to be besties with. That's not reality. But I want to know how we can build something positive in Zaragoza. I created the Facebook group Black in Zaragoza, but just having this first actual like dinner, or excuse me, a meal together where we're like 6 or 7 Black women in Zaragoza are going to sit down and talk and get to know each other truly. I look forward to that.
That's wonderful, Yolanda, and I've seen your pictures on Facebook getting Black women together. We love to see it. We have another comment. The way people feel so entitled to our bodies is insane. Absolutely. Kiyoka also, touching is crazy. I hate being touched. And that's a thing that we have talked about too in the US, like people touching our hair. For some reason, they just feel that they can touch or have access to our bodies, which is extremely problematic. The awkward Black nomad also says it happens with men and women. It's not even an attraction, it's dehumanizing, turning us into body parts and features, of course, and being very reductive to that all we are is a body and there's nothing else. We have somebody on a dating hiatus because the men are not well as a collective. This is a comment from someone else.
This is a different conversation.
Do not have these men coming for me because I know it is not. It is not my smoke. Okay, and so then we also have some good comments in here. We have from Big Up Yourself. That's such a pity because melanin is being studied because it can cure brain disease, and scientists believe melanin might actually save humanity. Deep stuff. Yeah, the way that Blackness has been talked about as a collective is a problem. We have Not All the Things. Hi, Dr. Davia. Thanks for being here. The messages that we hear can taint the realness of folks who love our Blackness. Yeah, we have somebody, CM. Hi, love this conversation we're having. You all knocked it out of the park with this conversation. It has been so good. We have a thank you to all of y'all for facilitating this discussion, all five, including Marissa in our chat. And then we have, oh gosh. Oh, you trying to get something started. Can't forget the fuss that was made over Simone Biles' edges on her wedding day. So Simone has faced a lot of flack. Poor Simone. I know she's just trying to be out here being the best gymnast she can be for y'all, and y'all wildin'. So she had posted when she was actually on the bus, like people are complaining about her edges, and she like, yo, it's hot on the bus. We ain't got no air conditioning. I got this little baby fan. I'm just out here. Don't forget about Gabby Douglas, because she was the first one, right? When Gabby Douglas was out here and people was like, why aren't these edges laid? Do you all have anything to say about the texturism, which is specifically the preference for certain types of hair textures? Vonnie talked about this with the light-skinned girl in the class that didn't need to cut her hair, but everybody else had to cut theirs. So there's a preference for people that have a looser hair texture and not as kinky. Did you all have any comments you wanted to make about the way people perceive Black hair in the media? We could also talk about Blue Ivy when she was a baby. Anything about any of these topics about young girls being perceived a certain way because edges are not laid?
So I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and she is I don't know, just put things in context. So I have 3 daughters, and I've always just referred to them as my latte, my mocha, and my caramel. And so my my granddaughter, the recessive gene is real and stuff. So she's a little like lighter complected than her parents. But anyways, the bottom line is she has, thick hair. And right now, since my daughter's pregnant, I have been tasked with, doing her hair. And it's I embrace it, and we are always making sure that we are telling this beautiful child how beautiful her hair is, because she's the only Black child. And they started pre-K at like 3 years old here, but she's the only Black child. So we are constantly letting her know with big poofs. If it's not combed just perfectly or whatever it is and stuff, let's do something with that pretty hair of yours. It's like, because we want to make sure, because she's in this environment, and it's a loving environment. She hasn't gotten to the age where none of the kids are like saying anything, but just to reinforce that this child, my grandchildren, will always know that their hair is just beautiful. Because why I wear wigs now is because I had bought into the whole thing of chemical processes and all that stuff when I was younger and stuff. And now I'm just like, nope, I'm just a wig diva now. But it's sad that sometimes it's when you hear those, like the Gabby Douglas and all that, it's coming from within the community, and that's hurtful and shameful. And with that, what I really want to say is when they came after Beyonce's daughter and the gymnast and all that, it seemed like there was so much more pushback afterwards. Like, let them have their nappy edges. Let their hair flow the way that God meant it to flow out of their head, and stop trying to still put this idea that your hair needs to look like it's been like windswept and straight. We're stopping all that now. Yeah, we're stopping all that now. And so yes, me and my daughter were with the family, her dad too, instill that you are beautiful, you have gorgeous hair. Yeah, always my little latte granddaughter, my little lollipop. Yeah, she has gorgeous hair, and can't nobody tell her different. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Yolanda. And I think another issue is classism that we haven't talked about. It's like if you're a Black person of a certain caliber, you can afford to have a great wig. You can afford to have the hair flowing in the wind. So, like, why would you on this platform in front of all these white people embarrass us like Black people? Like, I think that's also a piece of it. It's like you could afford to have the best wig, so why you do us like that? But what we need to realize as Black people is we don't necessarily have a shared fate related to everything. What these celebrities do ain't got nothing to do with us. Are they paying our bills? That's most important. Forget the hair. Could you help and pay our bills, right? Give us some scholarships, help us to just have a better life. But we're like so
You got a
focused
whole bunch of opinion and can't do nothing.
Right. Yolanda, there's this focus on the aesthetic of like how we look. It makes us all look bad, something like that. And I point to you, Yolanda, because I think that there's a lot of church culture that used to be like that too back in the day before like I even
Look at
existed.
baby hair.
Right. Where it was like you had to go to church, you had to look really nice, you had to like dress all up. So I don't know if you interacted with that or knew that or saw how people were definitely controlling the Black body, hair, how you dressed, respectability, politics.
I step away from all of that and just know that embrace it. Again, if whether it's I'm looking at Vonnie's hair right now and saying, "But I wish my hair was that naturally thick." Oh my God.
Oh, Vonnie coming through, Vonnie, all the time. You can also see her hair on her channel. She changes up her styles on her channel.
Yes.
Okay, we have a comment from Cole that is hugs to all Black men and women suffering in this world. Thank you for that, Cole. We could really use a hug sometimes. And we have Big Up Yourself said that bleaching is common in Jamaica, makes me sad. So skin bleaching, we really didn't get a chance to talk about this, but it is still popular. It's like $1 million industry with the skin bleaching. When I was in Ghana, Vonnie, okay, I'm like, oh, lotion. And then it was like light bright, be lighter. I said, ma'am, I was looking for lotion. I don't know how we got here. Nigeria had the same thing. In India is leading us in terms of that skin bleaching, always talking about fair skin and, people with fair skin are more desirable and bleaching themselves a lot in India. So skin bleaching is a major issue, and it's also started to come to the US as well, because now they can't necessarily say like lighten your skin, like that's too direct, but it's like make it brighter, make it shiny, stuff like that. But all of the undertone is to bleach that skin. Claude also has a comment: bleaching, etc., is the expression of hate of self that shows that the colonizer did a great job at making some people feel that they belong to a lesser race. Absolutely. And that we find, and I know that we're at time, but there's people like Sammy Sosa. There are people that have lightened their skin over time. We see people, there were conversations.
Lil' Kim.
Thank you so much. I'm like, y'all help me out. I'm like really struggling with these celebrities. Little Kim. Okay, people have come down on Little Kim for lightening the skin, but she said she wants y'all to know. I talked to her yesterday. She wants y'all to know that y'all said she was ugly. Everybody cheated on her when she looked dark. So she said, let me lighten up so I can elevate myself, so I can keep my man. That's y'all fault. Cole says,
and the thing is, I was just watching I was just watching this interview with Alex Cooper with Charlize Theron, and yeah, she was like, "Yeah, I was cheated on so many times." Okay, so it's like it doesn't matter. A dog is a dog is a dog. Okay, if the man is a man whore, he's going to cheat. You could be the most hottest woman in the world that people see it that way, so, or bleach your skin, or have whatever you think society is like. This is what's acceptable, so I'll get me a good man. That don't mean nothing.
Thank you, Ulonda. We can look at Shakira if you have questions, because everybody was surprised that Shakira got cheated on, because we would think that she is desirable, blonde hair, dyes the hair blonde, long flowing in the wind, great body, whatever, but still got cheated on. So see her if y'all have questions. Cole has said, I'm Indian and colorism is a huge deal. Some family members won't eat the same plate or on the same plate or glass of a dark-skinned person that drank or ate there before.
And that's just sad. See, and that'll make me I haven't had the opportunity, but just in my mind, I'm like, if I felt like you didn't want to eat off a plate, I would go through and lick every plate just to piss you off. Okay.
I'm so okay.
I'm petty. Okay.
Sometimes you gotta be. Dr. Scholl says, I always thought you were an expat from the US or a home country and immigrant in the country you relocated to. Okay.
So it sounds like what she's saying is that according to the US, you're an expat, but when you're in the country, you are a Mexican or Spain or Colombian immigrant. You're an immigrant once you get there. You're an expat from the US. I get that. I mean, I don't really know what the true definitions are. I definitely understand people being from the country that you've relocated to, calling out the way you can finagle terms to make yourself seem better than the people who are from there. I'm going to go ahead and speak for the majority of Black women and say, I know that we are not doing that. If we're calling ourselves an expat or immigrant, it's probably because of, again, a lack of understanding or just so many different versions or meanings or definitions of the word. Yeah, so that's what I
call myself a foreigner. I mean, it's like, yes, I would use the word expat. I call myself a foreigner. The only reason that I don't actually use the word immigrant, and again, this is just based on my information, is just because I haven't started the process, and I don't know if I'm going to start the process of becoming a citizen. No, I don't want to go back to the US.
Do it. I mean, come on. Yeah, like there's other places you could go, but at the same time, you're already there. You already put in some of those years. So go ahead and capitalize off of those, that equity. I'm definitely going to go for permanent residency here in Mexico because you only need 4 years. I already have the 4-year temporary residency. So you just have to like switch it over to permanent residency at that time. And I think I got mine in June or July. So I think it's already been 1 year. So I think I have to really pay attention to that demarcation line and make sure that I get that permanent residency. And I'm proud of it. But at the same time, I'm Mexican too. Like, I don't care what nobody say, like nationality wise, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel it. Like, I feel it. I feel so at home. Like, I don't even feel like I'm anywhere else a lot of the time. It's just like, oh, I'm just home, So I feel like, you can have your own personal definitions, and then you can also kind of respect like what's going on. And like Dr. Maya said, look to your left, look to your right. There's different people having different experiences. Ulonda, you talked about always learning. And I think that's a huge aspect of moving around the globe and integrating yourself into different spaces and things like that. We're always learning. And I think the people who want to travel are the ones who always want to learn and be open. And Vonnie, I don't think you said it on this conversation, but when we were preparing for this show, you were talking about how like just integrating yourself into the customs and really respecting the customs and the ways of life of the people where you are. If you don't have that type of flexibility and adaptability, then you're going to have a bad day, not just a bad 5 minutes, regardless of what everybody else is doing. So that resiliency within, that ability to adapt and look at other people from wherever they are in their journey of understanding how the world works and understanding different people is going to determine how you're going to be able to counteract these anti-Black experiences that you have personally and understand how they're affecting everybody, because it's always happening. It's part of the water that we swim in as well. So I think it's just really important to have that self-awareness, and I just think we do. I just know from as many Black people as Black women specifically that I've spoken to around the world, we do. We have that. Somehow the way we've experienced the world through our life has given us that. So we're very well primed to not be wherever we're from.
I love that. And good luck, Yolanda, in Spain and Helese in Mexico. We love to see that. Marissa said the underlining assumption is that we shouldn't be able to travel as Black people. We are supposed to be confined to whatever they want us to be in the minds of the colonizers. Yes. And I heard something about like travel equaling freedom. And when you're able to stop a person from movement, that is a oppressive tactic. So for sure, Marissa, definitely not allowing us to go anywhere is a big part of this. We have a comment, very, very true. We all need to decolonize our mind to get to liberation for all. Couldn't agree with that more. And I hope that we are working to do that. I want you all to know that, you know, we all should just be out here trying to be better people as much as we can, cause as less harm as possible. Claude says people should truly look into the science because melanin is actually the original blueprint of mankind. All the colors are due to the permutation of the original genes. Y'all making this scientific, and this is not a science channel, but we hear you, and hopefully we will do that research. Big Up Yourself says, I do wear wigs, but they are going to look like they could have grown out of my scalp. It won't be straight. Yes, love that. That's another thing. Is like I always, when I did wear wigs, I know that y'all know me as a natural girly, but back in the day when I also was trying to assimilate, I wore wigs and I always wanted to be curly. I always wanted to like look like something that could be my hair texture and not be straight. So I kind of did a little bit of it, but not fully because I never was gonna wear a straight wig. And then we have, let's see. Okay, I think that we have most of the comments in the chat. I wanted to know, Yolanda, you wanted to talk about Madrid and
Oh,
yeah, go for it.
okay. So this is the experience that happened 2 years ago. I've shared this a couple of times on my channel, but I'll share. I think this is like the coup de grace of maybe some like, I don't want to say anti-blackness, but the weirdness of people seeing Black people and seeing Black people feeling themselves and feeling free. So 2 years ago, this is actually when I had decided, I was like, I want to move to Madrid. I'm moving to Spain. I don't care what it costs. But Melanin Madrid, I had connected with this Facebook group, and they, do things. And so I found out that they were having a picnic in Retiro Park, which is like the biggest park in Madrid. And super excited. Went there. Had to have been, I want to say maybe about 50, 60 Black people in Retiro Park that Sunday. Had food, chatting, communing, line dancing. They had like all the line dances going on. I had the videos, and people were looking. It was a bunch of Black people having a good time. So there were people looking, and there were some people that were not part of the group that were like, video chatting, because taping it, because again, we were line dancing, and so there was a lot. It was a lot of fun. So then we sit down, and then we're just talking again, and then you see this. She's an Asian woman come up as we're just sitting down talking, filming us, just phone up, not catching a clue that, do you see these angry Black faces looking at you? What are you doing? She's just like, and I think that she was on the phone showing somebody, because I think I don't know what happened, but somebody said something from the phone, and I think that's when maybe they said, like, put the phone down. Okay. But we did not mind, because we knew it was a spectacle when we were dancing and having a good time. But for somebody to come over and just, while we're just sitting down eating and finding this so fascinating, look at them. They're just sitting down eating. Isn't that just wild and crazy? That does not happen a lot, but it's impactful. And we're giving you the stank eye, lady. Catch a clue. Yeah.
Thank you
Anyway,
for, because these personal anecdotes, they matter. They actually happen to us. These are real life stories, okay? We can't make this stuff up. And we want you to know so that if you're going to these places, you can be aware. We have a comment that is the movie movie Origin talks about the global caste system. So if you all want to look at that for more information, we are now at time. And sorry for going over everybody. It was just such a good conversation. Could you all, if you just have one last thing that you want to say, if you want to just tell people about your channel one more time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to everybody's channel. I'll close us out really quickly. Helese, if you want to go first, Vonnie, Yolanda, and then I'll end it.
Okay, so again, my channel is at Love Stars World. I talk about living with ADHD. I talk about spirituality. I talk about whatever, but it's really kind of just supporting people going through transitions and who are trying to navigate the world with these type of neurodivergent kind of differences in the brain. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thank you, everybody, for the wonderful comments, the questions. Once again, my name is Vonnie. My channel is Hey Von. And I talk about Black girl joy. I talk about all the mistakes, all the great things, all the not so great things I'm doing to live a life that is truly joyful. And most importantly, a life that is of my own and of my choice.
Thank you guys for allowing me to be part of this great conversation. My social media on YouTube, it is Locating Cozy, Instagram, Locating Cozy, and also we have a Facebook group, Black in Zaragoza. On the Locating Cozy, the YouTube, I talk about my experiences, and I also encourage, as Dr. Maya, I interview other Black women that are on their own journeys. They don't have to have already left the country or left that horrible job. I want to talk to Black women where they are right now and share their experiences.
Fantastic. All of their channels are in the description box. Like, comment, subscribe. We want to give a big thanks to Marissa for being our moderator today. And finally, I will let you all know that the next video is going to be about getting Black women paid. We have Teen Zekis that will be coming in. So make sure that y'all look out for that video. We are so happy we were able to have this honest conversation with you all. Thank you, Helese, for facilitating. Thank you, Vonnie and Yolanda, for your honest feedback and sharing all of your stories. It was a pleasure to be here with you all. We hope you have a wonderful, great rest of your day and week, and we will talk to you all next time.